Hey again. Since in the last video we had some troubles regarding installation of the MySQL, it was something regarding the services as I said, and I have removed the service and now it is successfully done. And I'll just click finish. All the configuration are complete, and I'll click next. This is like start the MySQL workbench after setup, and I don't want to start it directly. And that's it. You can just close this installer. And the first thing which you should go for is the MySQL 5.7 command line client. Okay, it will ask for the password after whatever password you have given during the installation. Make sure you enter the same, and it starts. So there are a bunch of commands which you should start up with, and the best and the easiest way to go for SQL is it is very user friendly, because all the commands are very um, colloquial, or the English meaning of the same things. And as well as you can also if you learn one of the SQL commands, mostly all of the SQL you come across with has more or less the similar type of commands. Like if you are getting acquainted with getting all the data from your table, then you have some commands which will be like select, and that select can be used in MySQL. That can the same is used in Oracle, and there are other databases as well where you have the same command uh, operating and giving the same results. So let's start up with our first command, and here you have three types of sub languages under SQL. The first one, which is DDL, and the DDL stands for data definition oops, language. Okay, someone has been messaging me. Right, he's my friend. Anyway, back to it. So DDL stands for Data Definition Language, which is basically defines how we are going to specify our commands regarding the structure in which our data will be defined. Something regarding that, how do you want your data to be stored, and everything related to how you are creating a database, or deleting a database, creating a table, deleting a table, altering the structure of your table, as in changing the number of number of columns in your table. All those stuff, all the commands related to that comes under DDL, the data definition language. And then we have something called DML, which is nothing but data manipulation. Oh, my spelling is wrong. Correct this time. And language, right? So, okay, it had to happen, right? Language, right? So, data manipulation language deals with all the commands which will be related to the manipulation of your data in your table structure. So, if I have a table called student and it has all the data regarding the student, so if I'm like going for any operation, like I want to see the table, what is the contents of the table, everything is under this data manipulation language. And suppose I don't like some of the information and it is not right, so I want to like update the table contents. So in that we can use a command called update. And similarly, if I don't want data at all, then I can delete it. So all those stuff comes under data manipulation language. Okay, and there are some other things called DCL, which is data control language, and all those stuff which are not required right now for our basic knowledge in this. And there are some stuffs, like very cool stuffs, which we can work on it. So starting with our first command, which is show data basis. It is something like your programming languages, all the commands end with a semicolon, and shows me what are the default databases present along with my SQL. And these are some of the databases which we have, like information schema, MySQL performance schema, Sakila, SYS, and World. And if I want to go with any of the databases which we have, then we have to use a command called use. So use, my database name will be here world. All right, and let's see what do we have in Word. So it gives this confirmation database changed. So the first thing which we have the confirmation that we have now entered a database and we can access all the tables inside it. So to know all the tables, what are the tables inside this database, we have a command similar to the previous one, show tables. And these are something like which I love about MySQL is you can see all these stuff like what are the different databases you have and different types of tables you have in a database. Those are some things which you are limited to Oracle database where I have worked with. So here in the show tables we have tables in the world, and it is city, country, and country language. Okay, so if I have to check, like there are two things which we need to be bothered about when it comes to a table. Now, table has two very important things. One is the row, which will be like all your data inside it, and there are columns. Columns are something called attributes. So if you're taking it as a object oriented programming language concept, then it is something like say every class has their own attributes or the data members, and they have certain data contained inside it. So every attribute or the column of your table will act like your attribute of an class, and they will have certain value, and that value will be your row. So multiple rows can represent as multiple objects of your table. If I'm not confusing too much, let's keep it very simple. They are just rows and tables, rows and columns, and that's it. And then when it is just rows and columns, then we have to be careful like what are the rows in it. So for checking the rows in our table, we have a command which is select, as I told earlier. And to know what are the columns inside it, which we need to know when we are storing our data or inserting the data or retrieving it back. So to know what are the columns in our table, we use a command called describe. Okay, so if I am using describe, then I want to know, suppose, what is the structure of my city table. Okay, so if I just type DESC, or I can also type the whole thing, describe city, semicolon, and gives me all the details regarding those tables. Okay, so if I also type like DESC city, DESC has two meanings in this. We'll explore one of the other meaning later. This one is describe. It gives the same result. Okay, so let's see what are the things which we have in this table. So all the fields, which are nothing but the columns, have the names called ID, and our next column will be name, country code, district, population. Now you can see like there is something called the types here. Okay, so types represents nothing but your what data type, or what is the type of data which is stored inside our fields. Now you would have worked in say very proprietary softwares where like in office you would have definitely worked in Excel or say something like that, and you can see there's a very clear ambiguity, same if there is a there's no like defined structure for a single column, right? So if you are containing all the numbers in one of the cell in the Excel spreadsheet, right under it you can contain something of a different data type. So suppose if I have a name in one of the cells, right below it we can have something called a number. It doesn't make sense, so it is totally ambiguous. But here it is very structured, and that's why Office has its counter software as Access, which is actually a database software where you have defined columns of given type. So for an ID, which is usually a number, we have an integer data type, which is represented here int. And we have a number written here within brackets, and this number is nothing but its size. Okay. All these like definitions are given by something called the create table command. And that in while you are writing the create table command, you have to give all these definitions there, and that will actually make the entire structure of your table. So whenever you're inserting, it will take only those type of data types inside the respective columns. So like we said, ID can be basically a number. So they are taking integer, and what will be the size, the length of your ID will be 11. So they are giving a maximum number of 11 length, right? Then we have name. Name is usually character, and here in MySQL there are two things when it comes to character. It is one is varchar and the other one is char. Char is character and varchar is variable character. Usually it is preferred that when you are having more than one character, then you use varchar, and when you're having just a single character, then you use char. But I don't know why they have used char here. I'll prefer using varchar when it is more than one. It actually makes sense, right? Variable character. So it is nothing but varchar and then the number of characters it can contain. Then country code as well, like char and all, int and all those stuff. So these are some of the things, and then we have certain other data types called double. Uh, we might have double, or else we can use float. Float can be used like we give a number followed by how many floating points can it accommodate. We'll explore on that in a little while. Okay, so after this type thing, we can see something called null. So you can see everything is given as no, 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 and this means that none of the field's value can be null at any point of time. So you cannot have, when you are entering any data inside our table here, we cannot have any of the fields data as empty or null, right? If we have that empty, then while inserting itself, the console will just give us an error that we cannot have the data inside because null values are not permitted. Okay, and then we have something called key. Key is a very, very important concept when it comes to any database structure. So what is key? Key is just a tables column per se. Key is a tables column, and which is very unique. It has three things. One, it has to be unique. So why unique? So why do you have your roll number or registration ID? That is a unique number which can uniquely identify you any